listening to Oilers Nation Radio, a member of the Nation network of podcasts and delivered by DoorDash. 1 hour of straight hockey talk with Dan, Rick, Tyler, and Bag Milk starts now.
Oilers Nation Radio episode. What is it, Tyler?
239.
239. Oilers Nation Radio 239. Yep. Bag Milk here. Liam Coombsy filling in for Rick. Tyler here and Dan on Zoom. Got a lot to talk about today. Things are not going so well in Oilers land right now. They have lost 4 of their last 5. Evander Kane out long-term after having a scary injury in Tampa. Jack Campbell's fallen apart. We got lots to get to. First, give a shout out to our friends at Oodle Noodle. New location opening up in Calgary right away. You don't want to get, if you're here in Edmonton right now or the surrounding areas and you want to get something to eat, use our friends at DoorDash, Liam.
Ding dong.
Mr. Yaremchuk, what do you got for us today for the delicious debate?
All right, guys, we need to stay civil when we have this conversation. But the delicious debate is this. When should Jack Campbell make his next start?
All right. So before you guys give your answers, I'm just going to run through the schedule here for the next 2 weeks. Okay. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. in Florida. Gotta love another Saturday matinee. Woo. Then they don't play for 3 days. They got 3 days off. They got LA back here at Rogers Place on Wednesday. Then they've got the Golden Knights on Saturday. So we've only got 3 games in the next week. And then after that, we are back on the road. New Jersey on the 21st, New York Islanders on that Wednesday, the 23rd, and then the New York Islanders on the 26th against the Rangers. So Tyler, I will start with you. When is your next start for Jack Campbell?
Okay, so just walking through my process here, he's obviously not going to start tomorrow against Florida. You're going to come back home, game on home ice against the LA Kings, a team that's in front of you in the standings. Then after that, it's a big Saturday nighter against the Vegas Golden Knights. I will put the disclaimer that if Stuart Skinner were to get shelled against either Florida or LA, maybe this changes. But I do think there may be just a little bit of a benefit. Not saying it will happen or whatever, but of just giving Campbell and sitting him down saying, we're going to give you a full week off. You're not going to play till we go back on the road. We want you to work on a few things. Kind of like, and with Coombsy here, I can use this example. You know, when a team takes a starting pitcher like the Jays did with Kikuchi, and we're like, hey, we're putting you on the, you got a neck strain.
Bring Campbell in relief.
You want to put Jack Campbell in the bullpen.
Well, like, they would sit Kikuchi.
He can be like 2005-06 Mike Morris and he only comes in for the shootouts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But teams will sit a starting pitcher sometimes, put him on the IL with like a neck strain when in reality, he's just bad.
Left arm shittiness.
Yeah. So I think the Oilers maybe need to go that route with Campbell where it's like, hey, you're going to back up. You're going to be a good soldier for us. You're going to work hard in practice. We're going to do some stuff with Dustin Schwartz. We're going to get your game on track. And you are going to start the road trip on the 21st for us against New Jersey. That'd be my next start for Campbell.
So just to confirm, we are going a full 10 days between starts.
You want to just want to skip a start, Tyler. You want to skip a week.
Well, but I mean, this kind of is skipping a start because if you were to go with the rotation they're going, it would probably be Skinner on the 12th versus Florida, Campbell on the 16th against LA, Skinner on the 19th against Vegas. I'm just skipping that LA start, giving them a little bit extra time because they have now tried the play them through it, right? And it's just not working and it's frustrating, but I think you need to try something different. And the opposite of playing them through it is sitting them through it a little bit.
Isn't it kind of contingent on how Skinner plays too, though, right?
It is.
100%.
Because what if he goes in against Florida and he has a bad time and it's like, well, do you want him immediately going in his next game at home? Maybe he struggles against LA or Vegas. Like, they're in a really awkward spot right now. And I don't know if you can even plan that far ahead.
I agree because I'm looking at clearly, just as before I say this, Stuart Skinner, the better option right now. But looking at his last 5 starts, he's got an 870 in there. He's got an 839. He's got a 900. A 974 and a 952, obviously fantastic, but there have been 3 starts in the last 5 for Skinner where it hasn't really gone his way either. So Coombsy, what are you doing?
Well, I also just pulled up something here because I wanted to try and add like another curveball into the conversation. I was expecting to go look at the Bakersfield Condors numbers and say, hey, there, Calvin Pickard is killing it down there, but that is not happening. Calvin Pickard has an 894 save percentage in 6 games. So never mind my idea there. I think you kind of just have to wing it based on how they perform. If Stuart Skinner comes in against Florida and plays well, I almost said pitch as well because you have me thinking about baseball now, then you just keep rolling the hot hand and that's the way it is. But if both of them are bad, you just got to go back and forth and hope one of them figures it out. I mean, I don't know if it's as easy in hockey to just toss a guy on the phantom injured reserve with a left arm or left leg shittiness or whatever it is in baseball. But because for the Oilers, what are you going to do? Call up Picard and then shove him back down waivers?
I'm not saying actually put Campbell on the IR though. I'm just saying like keep him as the backup for a little bit.
You're putting him on timeout.
Yeah, putting him on timeout a little bit. And it sucks. Like a lot of people in the chat on Oilers Nation every day were like, man, legitimately feel bad for Campbell. And it is rough. Like you can just imagine what's going through the guy's head when he's sitting there in the crease looking at his glove again after giving up a weak one. Like his confidence is just shot.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there isn't really bad opponents coming up. You got Florida. They score a lot of goals. They're good. Both the Kings and Golden Knights. Those are key games you'd like to win because you're behind both those teams in the standings in the Pacific. And then it's New Jersey again on the road. And we all know New Jersey is going to throw like 73 shots on net in the game. So there's no break coming up here at all. It's not easy.
Well, there's a little bit of a murderer's row, especially this road trip is a tough one. Liam, how are you handling the goaltending right now?
I said on the last show, when Campbell gets to start, they should just keep riding him until he gets cold. That's exactly what they did. They got 2 games out of him and he got really cold.
Well, that's the interesting thing too, right? Like we talked about it on the Tuesday episode of Oilers Nation Radio, exactly what Liam just said, where it's like, I think what happens on Thursday in Carolina is very dependent on this back-to-back set.
Mm-hmm.
Oilers as a whole were brutal against Washington. Skinner couldn't bail them out. The very next night, Jack Campbell was rock solid against Tampa Bay. Looked like the guy we hoped he would be. Made sense to go back to him against Carolina. Did not go well.
Yeah. And I think when you look through Skinner's stars this season, like that Washington game, probably his worst statistical start of the year. Also, he allowed 4 power play goals. The penalty kill was absolutely horrendous. Atrocious. The New Jersey game, was it the Jesper Bratt goal he probably would have wanted back? Was that the 3rd goal where it kind of...
It was the one where Graves stepped in and shoves that weak shot on net that goes between his legs. And then the other one, I think that's more on Niemelainen.
Yeah, so then there was the 2 goals that were really quick. One of those he wants back. The Calgary one, he was rock solid. St. Louis, he was rock solid. Buffalo, pretty good. 2 of those goals were straight up breakaways. And the Tage Thompson goal was just a good goal.
Yeah.
And then the Calgary game
Shoddy
was
defending
awesome.
on that Tage Thompson goal.
Yeah. I think the whole thing with both of them is just the team's got to be better in front of them, first of all. But right now, you've just got to believe in Skinner. I think you've got to show belief in Skinner more than anything. So I'm kind of with Tyler a little bit where the stretch of games, well, like this, how spread out they are, is kind of sucks for Campbell in a way, but also he hasn't earned a spot on this team to play right now, to be honest. Like, what has he really done in these last... So yeah, he was good against Tampa, but 2 of his last 3 starts have been his worst games as an Edmonton Oiler. I think that's fair to say. And
just not just the worst game so far as an Edmonton Oiler, 2 identical goals that hit him dead in the pocket on the glove and still end up going in.
And his rebound control hasn't been good. And it's just back-breaking moments. And we're just not getting that from Skinner right now. And that's the guy I would just ride until you get a chance to play Campbell again. I don't know when that would be, but also just play the guy who's going to win you hockey games. I think that's what they got to do. It doesn't matter how long it's going to take, 10 games, 10 days, 20 days, whatever. What? 20 days. But just play Stuart Skinner. He's clearly your better goalie. If there was a guy on the 4th line scoring a goal every single night, the Oilers wouldn't hesitate to put him up the lineup. Like, just play the better goalie. I think that's what I'm going to say. So what is it? What did you say? LA Wednesday, Vegas Saturday, and then they're on the road again.
On the road again, New Jersey on Monday.
So the next time I would look to play him again would probably be the Islanders game.
So you got almost 2 full weeks where you wouldn't be playing there for Liam. Dan, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I wish that we had recorded this episode yesterday because I could have complained, I think, a little bit more yesterday. But I'm putting this one on the coaching staff for me. And so with Campbell, I would have pulled him after that goal went in with seconds left to go in the second period. I feel like that's a goalie that's shell-shocked. He's deep in his net, too deep in his net for a shot from Stahl that was just an absolute throwaway of a shot that picked a corner, went in, and no goalie should be in that position. So I think that the team kind of made Campbell wear what he wore in the third period. I would go back to the rotation still. I think that they shouldn't have got out of the rotation at this point. I don't think Jack Campbell was ready to take over the starting position position by putting him in that second game against in back-to-backs like they got out of the cycle of doing after the Tampa win. I would just go back to Skinner on against Florida, and then I put Campbell in against the Kings, and then I think you have a decision to make, because then you've got your Vegas, your New Jersey, and your New York Islanders games that are the ones where you want to be able to get those points. You need to beat Vegas at this point. We need to be able to take them down a notch and keep them within striking distance for the rest of the way.
Looking at the schedule for me, I don't even know how to answer this question, because Stuart Skinner is by far the better option right now. So you ride him. But at the same point, I think it's going to be a little bit more game to game than maybe we expect, because I get why they went back to Campbell yesterday. Yeah. I totally understand why he gave him back.
We all would have been on board with that at the time, right? Totally. You know, with the benefit of hindsight, like you saw what we did in Tampa, and you're like, that makes sense.
It makes sense.
The only thing I'll say is that I have been preaching this platoon back and forth. But yeah, Kuhn, you're right. It's like you can't say now that you would have said no, because it did make sense.
And it's interesting too, like last night against Carolina, how the wheels fell off in a real hurry. Because in the first period, I thought Jack Campbell was solid. I thought that first goal by Svechnikov, that's not his fault. That bounces in off Barry's stick. That's a tough luck one. What are you laughing at over there?
Someone just tweeted me. Sam Cheros said, if he and we were smart, we would have a burn the glove auction for charity and just light Campbell's glove on fire and have a good laugh.
You know, I honestly don't hate that, because like the guy, I'm glad he didn't do a post game interview last night, because it would have been dark. So he needs some kind of levity in his life a little bit. Maybe there's something like that. Get it? Like Gregor always talks about bringing somebody in and get the curse out of the dressing room. Maybe they do that. A little some kind of dance around the glove.
Do you know what's weird about the Oilers this season? And just like weird shit is happening. Kulak's fallen down twice in exact same spot at Rod's place. Now you have Campbell literally letting in the same goal back-to-back game, or 2 and 3, whatever it was. It's just like, this is voodoo shit. It's fucking weird. Do not get it.
Kane injury too, right?
The Kane injury.
That's a fucked up injury.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts. It's this team. It feels like this weird shit going on with this.
Yeah, they got to make a sacrifice or something. Something's got to get burned.
If anyone has a goat.
Waz?
What about Flex?
True. Waz has goats, yep.
But like going back to last night, like the first Svechnikov goal, it is what it is.
That's on Barry. And McDavid, right? Wasn't it McDavid, Tyler?
Yeah.
Yeah, that first goal, McDavid, that wasn't good. That was not a good look.
The second one, that's the Brent Burns power play goal.
Anytime goal.
I think that you probably could have had it, but that's not the most egregious goal of the night to me. Moving forward. Svechnikov's second goal.
Bad.
Awful. Right in the pocket of the glove.
Awful.
When I watched it live, my tweet was, I said, unless that hit CC's stick and changed directions, that is a brutal goal. And it straight in. Hits him in the pocket, can't grip it. Moving on.
Can we just mention something about that one quickly? Like, I think a lot of people are wondering, because when it happened in Dallas, it's like, oh, did that go through his glove? But then he never went to the bench. And
he would have instantly gone.
He's clearly just not tracking the puck well enough to catch it in the right spot. It's just such a weird thing to do as a goalie. Like, how many years in the NHL has he been now? 7 or 8 years? It just seems very odd.
It's like,
I don't know about you guys, but I've played ball hockey goalie before, and that just feels like he's snapping the glove in there, and you know how the webbing, sometimes it just like cups in and you get the outside of the glove instead? Like, he's got such a whip to his hand. He's getting there with such emphasis. It feels like his glove doesn't even have the ability to get set.
It's like he's almost, we're talking baseball. It's like he's almost snow coning the puck.
Yes.
But unable to grip it.
It's interesting we're talking about this, because the Jays had a weird situation with the gloves ripping. Remember, I think it was 2 different times throughout the season that Vladdy had his glove at first base. The ball just went through it. And ironically, one of those was in the season against Seattle. And it just felt like, we talked about this in the pod before the Blue Jays playoff run started, the playoff run that lasted 2 games, that it felt cursed that these things were happening. And then lo and behold, the Jays play the same Mariners in the playoffs and everything's just cursed. So to circle back to what Liam said, Something feels cursed. Something seems wrong. Another thing that's fucked up is this Svechnikov is like an Oilers killer. He has 2 hat tricks against the team this year.
I was just going to say, all I saw this summer was predictions of Carolina, Edmonton, and then here we are with Svechnikov just scoring 6 goals against us in 2 games.
It is unreal.
Oilers and Canes meet in the Cup Finals. Svechnikov scores 24 goals in 6 games.
The really fucked up thing about Svechnikov is he was born in 2006.
Oh, how dare you?
No, he wasn't.
Oh, no.
He's not 17.
How dare you?
That was all thinking.
You had to think about it.
Going back to last night, walking through the goals again, the Martinook goal was super odd. He was like falling and then hit it out of the air and popped it up over Campbell. I don't know that one's necessarily on Campbell, more so than just a real oddity, but it is what it is. It still goes in the net.
The rebound.
And then the clearing the puck one.
Yes, the rebound is the issue.
It's kind of just, I know I hate like crapping on him for every single thing he does. It feels like he's obviously under a microscope, but like a lot of these goals are led from errors from him. And like the Martinook one is just like very unfortunate, but it's just a repetitive error where it's like can't control his rebounds.
Mike McKenna said on the Daily Faceoff Live the other day that the challenge with Jack Campbell this year so far is he's not getting himself set in the right spots.
He's sliding all over the place.
So every time he needs to reposition to move to deal with a shot, maybe like a cross crease pass kind of thing, he's not originally set. So he's having to rely on athleticism to kind of like sprawl out. And then his rebounds are going everywhere. So it just starts at the beginning with fundamentals. And I'm not a goalie. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert. I'm just regurgitating what somebody else said. But yeah, he has to basically start from scratch and figure out what's going on.
It was funny you say that because maybe I'm wrong on this one, but the second goal in the Tampa Bay game where who was it, Killorn that tipped it?
Yep.
Like Campbell was so far out of his net already. Like it just felt like he wasn't even following, like the shot probably wasn't even going there.
And that's a concerning sign for me too. Again, I'm not like a goalie expert, but that goal, he didn't track that Killorn one well at all. Like that's a puck that it's a good goal. And it's one where you go, okay, like that goes in on goalies. But then you kind of watch Campbell during it. And it was the same thing as the Burns one yesterday. Natchez has the puck. And as Natchez goes to pass it across, Campbell drops his left pad to the ice. Like he's almost reading a shot coming. And then he was, like you said, he almost could have got there, Bag Milk, but he was fraction of a second late because he dropped his pad and then pushed across. It just feels like, again, nothing's working. And someone in the chat again today on Oilersnation Every Day said, maybe you do just need to let him get cold. Me and you were talking about like, do you just sit him for a week or when do you play him next? Let him get cold and maybe he just goes back his next start and it's like instincts for him. And he's done overthinking because his head's probably just so jumbled right now.
Working through the last couple from last night, the Svechnikov hat trick, again, a Oilers killer this year. Campbell makes a good save on the first one. Puck's laying right at the side of the net. Yeah. Nobody is around. That's part of the thing that most bothered me. Devin Shore is standing right there. And instead of trying to get the loose puck at the side of the net, he jumps into the crease and starts playing goalie for some reason. I didn't understand that one. Jesper Fast, the last goal of the night, just a disastrous play. Just in general, that is the microcosm of Campbell's year so far.
That's what resulted in, that's what brought my brain to the Conklin thing. When I tweeted that was the worst goaltending performance that an Oilers had in Carolina since Ty Conklin. And it reminded me so much. Like he didn't go behind the net with the Jason Smith thing, but it was just the same. Like, where are you going? What's the plan?
My heart just sank, honestly, when that goal went in, just to see his reaction.
It was sad.
That took me right back to Fleury in the World Juniors when he tried to clear the puck and then hit the American player. But that was what I was going to say with that play is that two things had to go absolutely perfect with that play, and they couldn't have gone any better for Carolina. He got it out of the air and then out of the air and into the net within like a fluid half of a second of motion. It was crazy.
I just feel bad for him because I've sat here like 3 shows in a row now and just said like he has to be better, which is an obvious statement. But I think this is just not the guy they signed, and it's not the guy who's been in the NHL. Like he is just on such a low right now, and who knows how he's just letting in the weirdest goals, and it's just consistent errors. And I think Jack Campbell will get better. And to be honest, we're going to look at this in like a month, and his numbers probably aren't going to be great. But also, I feel like it's going to be one of those things where you look back at his last 5 games and it's like, okay, well, he's actually being consistently better now. But I think his overall numbers are just going to be probably looked terrible all season because of this really poor start.
On the human,
I believe in him.
On the human side of this, all I can think about is that he signs the big ticket, and that's just the first thing in his fucking head. He's like, I got to live up to this 5x5. I got to live up to the 5x5. Yeah. And then it starts going like, because if you watch him in the preseason when the games don't matter, he was playing loose and he looked fine. And then when the game started to matter for real, fucking man, the wheels really fell off. I want to hear from you. ON Radio Podcast, hit us up on social. When are you starting Campbell next? Very obvious. Skinner's getting the net tomorrow against Florida. What do you do after that? Hit us up. ON Radio Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. The other awful news from this week, obviously, that we got to touch on next is Evander Kane. Tampa Bay game on, what was that? Tuesday.
Yep.
Weird play, because I personally thought that should have been whistled down before we got to the incident, because Kane was slew-footed right in front of the bench.
That was,
slew-footed right in front of the bench. To me, that is an instant penalty that got missed and should have been called down. Progresses. Pat Maroon, unfortunately, steps on Kane's arm, wrist, something like that. You see instantly the blood on the ice, and you know it is not good. It is bad. And then we see Evander Kane today ahead of the Oilers game in Florida tomorrow, talking to the media. He is completely strapped up, that arm. He's going to be out 3 to 4 months at the earliest.
Yeah. Do we want to do this now? Are we Kucherov in this guy?
Well, that's what I want to know is like 4 months takes us to February.
Yeah. Season doesn't end until April 12th.
So
when's the trade deadline?
March 3rd.
March 3rd. So he's going to be back around that time.
Maybe.
And he'll be sold as our one trade deadline pickup.
Oh, fuck, Dan. I didn't even think about that.
But it's going to be like,
it was their ad last year, right? It was their mid-February edition, turned everything around. This year is the mid-February edition again.
Oh, shit.
Time's a flat circle. You get Mike Smith
your
back
mind,
in the mix
Tyler.
as well. Yeah.
he is on the roster.
Trade for Derek Brassard again. Bring the band back together.
I will say, if there is, yesterday on Real Life, I was against this. I was like, it doesn't make sense. It's not realistic. But then I read the tweet from Nugent Bowman today. Evander Kane is back with the Oilers and in good spirits. The skate cut went down to the bone, he said. His wrist is immobilized. If your wrist is immobilized because you were cut all the way to your bone, I think that might take longer than 3 or 4 months.
Tendon damage in there, probably. There's fucking blood vessels in there. There's all kinds of shit. So like, I wonder when the Oilers give that 3-4 month timeline, is that just for him to get back on the ice and like working out with that wrist? Or are they expecting him to play at that point? Because I look at, how long was Mikhailov out?
It was because the COVID season, he was supposed to be out 3 to 4, but then the league got paused because of COVID, and he came back during the bubble and he was fully healthy in August. So he was expected, he got hurt around, it was in December. It was late December, and he was expected to be back slightly before the playoffs started if there was no COVID. So we don't
3 or 4
know
months.
what his normal injury timeline would have been, because he didn't technically make it back till August.
Was that as bad? Like, I don't remember
It was roughly as fucked up. Like, there was blood everywhere. It was pretty intense. Like, the players in the team were like, why are we still playing the game? This is whack. It was pretty bad.
Comparables?
I think there's a chance here. And like you were talking in the office before, you were like, oh, if they wanted to Kucherov him, they should have said out indefinitely, because now they're opening themselves up to an investigation. If he doesn't come back, I think the NHL is probably at the point they're investigating this stuff pretty hard anyways now. And the thing with this injury is, if Kane were to hypothetically be on board with it, because you would need to have him on board, right? Like,
you have to tell him, you have to ask, you have to be like, hey man, look, you're not going to play down the stretch for the team. You're back in game 1 of the playoffs.
Is that okay?
You have to tell him, even if you're good in March, you're not coming back. You have to watch. You need to,
and again, he would need to have the wink under the table conversation of like, oh, and if the NHL comes a knock and you're going to say it still hurts to shoot the puck on April 11th, then you can't play till April 13th.
If they ask him to do that, then if the NHLPA, the union that represents the players, if they ask, hey, Evander, like, this is actually what's happening, he has to lie and say that's what's going on. It is not an easy thing to ask a player to do. Beyond just being competitive, you have to lie to the Players Association.
Well, I think there's also going to be the angle of where are the Oilers at when he's eligible to come back? Because losing Evander Kane, no doubt, I don't care who they call up.
Yeah.
That is a massive loss for this team. Huge. So where are the Oilers at 3 months from now? If they're struggling and they need wins and they're kind of like bubblish, do you not want him back in the lineup?
Yeah, because they're not Tampa. That's the thing, is we use Tampa as the example. The Oilers are not the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Lightning put Kucherov on the LTIR the whole year so that they didn't have to trade, Tyler Johnson or Brian McDonough. For the Oilers, we're all being like, oh, let's LTIR him so we can get Jacob Chychrun, who hasn't played yet this season.
Here's
Who's
an
also
idea.
injured.
Hear me out. You get Chychrun, Kucherov him.
Fuck me. Kucherov them both.
And then you go get Ryan O'Reilly.
And Kucherov him too, and nobody plays until game one, just like Vegas last year when they got Jack Eichel, and it was, Eichel, Stone, and Pacioretty will all be back for game one of the playoffs. Well, guess who didn't make the playoffs? Vegas.
That's what worries me a ton about the Oilers.
Yes.
They have that weird feeling of,
well, because there's also teams,
they feel cursed.
There's teams that right now in the Pacific Division are getting wins that you probably didn't expect to get. Seattle. Like right now, currently November 11th, as we're recording this, Seattle is in a playoff spot.
The only good thing I think about this Oilers stretch of games where they're playing like all these tough teams is that they don't play any easy teams. So there's time for this lineup to get held. Like Yamamoto's out of the lineup tomorrow too.
What's going on with him? Like I missed what happened. I know he was scratched last night, but like what happened?
I don't know. Cause he played like 15, 16 minutes against Tampa. Now all of a sudden he's not in the team and now he's back in Edmonton and he's being reevaluated for an injury. He had a shoulder injury. That's what it was. Or was it a wrist? I don't know. But whatever it is, he's dealt
with a handful of things throughout his career. Remember there was one year it was the year before he broke out in 1920. He only played like half the season in the AHL. Right. He's had a ton of different things. I think he had a concussion issue. I could be wrong. Someone could correct me on that. I think there's been a wrist issue and a shoulder issue.
Just a string of injuries, which is worrying.
Absolutely.
It almost felt like they were waiting for an injury to happen like Kane's so that they could make roster transactions, including Yamamoto getting some time off because he's obviously banged up with something.
Yamamoto got hurt in last year's playoffs. It was Gabriel Landeskog clipped him up high.
Right. And
that's what it was.
Yeah, because the game before, that's when, was it Kadri?
Kadri got hurt by Kane the game before.
Yeah.
Game one.
And then Landeskog came out and said, like, you can't be making hits like that. And then he did that to Yamamoto.
And the NHL was like, nothing happened.
Yeah.
That's fine. Blindside hit to a kid that's like half your size. No problem.
Has Yamamoto been the same since that?
No.
I know it's not been like a ton of sample size, but like.
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily want to go there, but.
Concussions are weird, man. You never know.
Was it a concussion? Sorry, you said
they called it an upper body injury, but since it's playoffs, you'll never know.
Right.
But based on the hit, you kind of think that's what it was. But that's a lot of speculation on our part.
Yeah.
Either way, Oilers not looking good right now in terms of just, I think Liam said it on Oilers Nation every day, where it's like the lineup that we've got for tomorrow on Saturday is so drastically different than the one we had available last Saturday. It is wild how much can change in a week.
This is why it was a good idea for the Oilers not to trade Yavi, Yamo, or Fogel this offseason. For this exact reason. Like everyone was saying is like, oh, we need to create cap space for this, and this, like whatever it was. It's like, but what are we going to do if someone gets injured?
Yes.
Like at least now we still have a very reasonable top six. Like what was it in practice today? McDavid, Hyman, Puljujärvi. Sorry, I guess you have it.
Yeah, I got the lineups today in practice was Nuge, McDavid, Puljujärvi. That's the first line. Holloway, Draisaitl, Hyman, Fogel, McLeod, the real Klim Shady. What is your problem over there?
This whole top nine. We're back to just being top heavy. There's no depth. It sucks.
Mark Shore, Ryan to finish off.
How many other teams can recall Joakim Nygard? Or sorry, Joakim Nygard. What did I say?
We should try to recall Joakim Nygard.
Matthias Janmark. I'm going to go Joakim Nygard off of that. Matthias Janmark and Klim Kostin. That's pretty good depth, Tyler. It's better than the days in the past when we were calling up
Josh Curry.
Yeah.
Like the reality, though, like to be fair to Matthias Janmark, he has had an 18-goal season in the National Hockey League.
He's an NHL player.
He played for the Red Wings, allegedly.
And Klim Kostin, you have no idea, really.
Fuck, can you imagine he just comes in? Can you imagine he just goes on a heater? Klim Kostin has like 8 goals in the next 12 games.
But like, wouldn't that be nice? Because that's my question that I want to ask you guys is, you can't replace Evander Kane in the lineup.
No.
We know that. But who do you think has to step up the most in terms of what we've got on the roster right now to try and chip away at that void?
Holloway.
That was going to be my pick too, actually. He's literally in that spot.
And the other thing too is after Holloway, who else on this roster outside of the top 6 right now deserves a crack in that spot? And the answer is pretty much no one, because you don't want to move Ryan McLeod out of being your 3C. So it's no one. Like, they have no choice but to just run with Dylan Holloway as the 2LW and hope he gets hot.
That was part of the season, though. We came into this year with the Oilers can be pushed over the top if two rookies break out. One was Philip Broberg. He was going to be the answer for the second pairing on defense. Kulak would start off as the 2D, and then Broberg would evolve into the role. And then Holloway is going to start off, third line or whatever. But by the end of it, he'll be a top 6 winger. And that's what we all just said was inevitable. Last year, Evan Bouchard broke out. So this year, Philip Broberg is going to break out. Dylan Holloway is going to break out. It's just going to happen, but it's not an automatic. Like, Holloway's only played like 50 games in the AHL. He missed the first half of last year because of a wrist surgery. And the expectations for all these kids are massive.
I think the Oilers put that expectation on Broberg, though.
Yeah.
Like Holloway, not Holloway. What's that GM called? Holland.
Ken Holland.
Yeah.
There's too many similar names.
He literally said, like, Broberg has to work his way out of the lineup, which inevitably means he's going to be on the team unless
he did work himself out of the lineup.
Which he literally worked himself out of the lineup. So now the expectations are, should we trade him? I was probably shouldn't trade him, but
I'm open to trading him.
You would trade him?
I'm open-ish to the idea.
I'm open to trading him, but
I wouldn't say he's untouchable for me like he is for some people.
I don't think there's many players. I think there's 2 players on this. Yeah, maybe that's an understatement. There's probably a few. But
who would be your third untouchable behind the big 2?
Nuge.
I think mine's Stuart Skinner.
It might
by
be
his cap hit and how good he is. Honestly, that's probably the third one.
Yeah, I mean, there's like untouchable in the
like
McDavid Draisaitl range.
Like, of course, depending on the return, you trade anybody outside of McDavid and Draisaitl.
But if we're talking about like at the deadline, guys you wouldn't move, Holloway would be pretty much untouchable for me. Like, I wouldn't move Holloway in a Patrick Kane deal per se.
No, I would move Broberg in a Patrick Kane deal.
I'd be very tempted to. Yes.
Would you?
I would 100%.
See, here's my only argument against it is this defense is good right now.
Wait a minute. You were leading the charge.
I am all aboard. Trust me. But I'm just saying is I don't know if I would just be like, they want Broberg. Like, here you go. Because this defense isn't good. Like, I don't know.
I don't think he's going to help it.
I don't think he can make it worse.
I think there's other guys in the AHL that might be more likely to help the blue line, like Jason Demers or somebody like that. Jason Demers. I don't know about that.
Would you ever have Jason Demers or Ryan Murray right now?
Neither. I'd rather have Vincent Desharnais or Chris Russell. Bring him back. Fuck. At least Chris Russell block shots.
I wonder if Desharnais will get a shot here once he kind of gets his feet rolling. He just came back from injury.
Yeah, he was really good for the Condors last year. I think the Oilers could really use that. They need more guys who are.
But is he really going to be that much better than Marcus Niemelainen?
No, but you just replace him. He's also older.
Go look at his player profile picture though.
He's
that motherfucker is scary, man.
Just given the way the Oilers have played right now, like the big problem with their blue line is nobody can make a good pass.
Oh my God.
Isn't he scary?
He is a frightening looking dude.
He just looks like a scary dude.
Isn't he 6'7"?
6'6" is what he's listed as.
6'7", huge wingspan, mean looking motherfucker. So, I mean, even though the big issue with the Oilers is they can't make a pass, bring up some guys that were tough to play against.
Why did he shave his head?
To look even scarier.
Like straight up.
So he can look scary. He's terrifying.
Maybe I would trade Broberg for Patrick Kane. The more I think about it.
And then put Patrick Kane on the LTIR and Kucherov him. We got Patrick Kane, Evander Kane, Ryan O'Reilly, Jacob Chychrun, Mike Smith, some other guys. Clefbaum's on the LTIR. Yeah. Maybe he'll come back for the playoffs too.
I was saying this on Real Life yesterday, but you know how like there was the James Neal 20 goal thing, right? There was the Oilers giving up picks for Chiarelli and McClellan, and then the NHL was like, not a rule anymore. There was the Keith thing with the cap space and all of that. Could you not see the Oilers Kucherov and Kane, then the NHL being like, we're stripping you guys of your first rounder cap circumvention?
100%.
We're sitting here like, fuck.
They get a $10 million cap penalty put on to next season, and they like can't re-sign guys. They can't re-sign Ryan McLeod and Stuart Skinner. They can't afford them. They get offer sheeted.
Back to the question though, of who has the most pressure of stepping up in Kane's absence. Dan, what do you think?
I was saying, I think it's Jesse and it's Yamo. And I understand that Holloway is going to be, I think, the body that's in that spot, but you got to get something out of one of these two guys that is putting points up on the board. I know that we've seen a lot of, positive numbers from both sides of that argument, but for me, Yamamoto and Puljujarvi have to start playing and paying off on their side of the puck to be able to overcome. I just think for Kane, the positives that we're going to see is from the bottom six getting better now with Janmark in the mix there, and then you just have to see Jesse and Yamo figure it the fuck out.
I'm also going to add Warren Foegele to that list.
Yep.
He got his first of the season, a beauty against Tampa Bay. Lots of credit. Bullet of a shot. The celebration, fantastic. You could tell.
He must have been listening to our episode on Tuesday.
But I'm adding him on that list. We've got those $9 million worth of players that they've got 2 goals amongst them. So the pressure is on those 3 for me. Liam, what do you got?
I think Foegele had a pretty good chance last night, didn't he? Where he kind of went in on the goalie. That's good to see. Yeah, I think those $3 million guys are a key, obviously. I think it's probably Yessi too. He's playing next to McDavid. Eventually he's got to start getting some goals or contributing with some points. And yeah, let's just see that before we look at everything else around him.
Cam?
I'm going to go in a different direction and say Klim Kostin. He was a first-round pick. He was at very good World Juniors. Really skilled guy, big guy. He's unafraid to drop the gloves. I don't think there should be any pressure on Klim Kostin. I don't think anyone's sitting here being like, oh, geez, if Klim Kostin doesn't come in and score 10 goals in Evander Kane's absence, then fire him into space. But, I mean, realistically, he's probably the best profile of the guy to fill into what Kane does, which is be a bit of an agitator and a tough guy with skill. I think I don't think we're going to need to sit here and expect Foegele or Puljujarvi or heaven forbid Yamamoto to be, like a tough guy who's maybe unafraid to drop the gloves or throwing hits, getting guys off their game. I think that's Kostin's spot. And I think when they acquired him, it was, okay, we want to have a second kind of physical guy to be here in case Kane gets hurt. Because if you're Evander Kane, you're a power forward. These guys get injured. We know that. We've seen that with every one of them, Lucic, Kazian, Rapi Torres from the start of time. It is what it is.
Tyler, who you got?
I think it's just kind of Holloway. I think you need production from Holloway. The Puljujarvi thing is like that. I mean, that would have been regardless of the Kane injury for me. That's a guy who's just got to start scoring, period, right? You can throw all the good numbers, and I get watching him. He does a lot of things really well on the ice, but you got to score. Like, it's still the same thing, same story as in the playoffs where Puljujarvi gets the puck on his stick and he doesn't know what to do with it. And it's like, okay, if you're going to make $3 million, let's start putting some of these chances home. You just can't keep looking that clunky.
On Wednesday, you had Frank Saravalli from Daily Faceoff on Oilers Nation Everyday, talking a little bit of trade talk with the Oilers. What's the basics of what Frank had to say?
So I asked Frank if the little losing streak is just viewed as a blip by this front office, or if maybe this is, caused them to kind of think a little bit differently about what their plans could be for the next few months leading up to the trade deadline. And Frank's response was, I certainly think they have their marching orders. They would like to add someone into the bottom 6 who maybe has a bit of grit, someone along those lines who brings a bit of toughness, or maybe a very good centerman. And I found that interesting. We all know they're going to look for a D-man, right? Like Susie or someone of that ilk is going to be a high priority. But I also, just from Frank's answer, do you not improve the defense of this team if you go out and get a really damn good defensive third line centerman?
Sure. 100%. Especially if you're playing Nugent Hopkins on the wing, which is the best spot for him, in my opinion.
Sure. It's McLeod on the wing too. Lots of speed there.
Who's your ideal? Obviously, like you said, Ryan O'Reilly yesterday on Real Life. I don't buy for a second the Oilers have any fucking chance of getting Ryan O'Reilly.
Well, but that's one where he's out there because if the Blues keep losing and they're out of the race, he's a UFA at the end of the year and they would sell him, right? They wouldn't be looking to re-up that guy. So obviously he's not going to come here in the next month, but I think that's a name to keep an eye on ahead of the trade deadline. Because again, adding a Carson Soucy or someone like that makes you good. But imagine if for, let's say there's 5-0, 5-on-5 minutes in a hockey game. If 18 go to McDavid, 18 go to Draisaitl, and 14 go to Ryan O'Reilly, pretty hard to get scored on with one of those 3 always on the ice.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
I think Jonathan Toews is one to actually watch. I think that's a realistic one.
So that one, to make the math work, you'd have to do Chicago retains 50 and then a third team retains some.
Retains 50 and you trade Foegele and the money works. And it probably costs you a second round pick too.
Poor Warren Fogel's always getting traded out of town, you know?
He is. And I feel for him, but that's what happens when you make $2.75 million, right?
And there's always a chance that Jonathan Toews is injured and you acquire him and do the Woodcroft thing. And then he joins Patrick Kane, Evander Kane, Oscar Clefbaum, Mike Smith. Who else do we have? Chitrin?
Yeah, Chitrin's on
running.
O'Reilly was on that list.
O'Reilly's on there too.
Yeah. God,
Might as well just go get Kucherov.
We're going to have a hell of a lineup for this
We
playoffs.
keep acquiring players and then hiring someone to like hit them in the knee with a lead pipe right as they get off the plane. Like they take one step off and it's like bonk LTIR.
Oh no.
ON radio boys are ready to go. Oilers, let us know.
Yeah, we've come up with an idea, Ken. This is bulletproof.
Was the Ben Sherratt trade a 3-way trade last season?
They laundered money through somebody, but who was it?
Because Florida did it as well with
Domi. They helped Carolina.
They helped Carolina and they got a pick.
The Leafs did this with Robin Lehner too.
It costs you. It costs you an extra asset, but
it probably cost. Wasn't it a first round pick in both cases?
No,
I don't think it's ever been more than a third to be the money laundering team.
Yeah,
or maybe a first just went to wherever Sherratt was.
Well, they gave up, I think, two first
Ben
round picks.
the return was first was part of the Sherratt deal for sure.
Yeah.
So the example I have right here is the Leafs. When Vegas was getting Robin Lehner back in 2020, they laundered him through the Leafs, and the Leafs gave Vegas gave the Leafs a 5th round pick, which they used on Casper Puito.
That was worth it.
Yeah, Casper Puito playing in Sim Liga this year has 5 points in 15 games.
Anyways, I think Toews is one to like actually keep an eye on. Bo Horvat's out there, but I think he's going to cost you too much.
He's going to cost a ton. He's
He's also not that good defensively.
Yeah, so I don't think he's a great fit for what the Oilers need. I think Toews is probably right now the one that I would look at and be like, hey, he's actually probably a pretty good fit. He's playing great hockey this year compared to last year.
For our friends at Twig and Berries, any final thoughts on just trade talk or who needs to step up? No? All right. For our friends at Twig and Berries, it's time for hot and cold, Ask the Idiots. I've got a handful of questions here that you guys submitted. I'm going to get the boys' first take on all of this. twigandberries.ca. That's where you need to go. Use the promo code NATION15. Get a little discount on your order. Got it? Good. Excellent. All right. Just because I'm going to start with the room. Dan is my TV right in front of me. So I'm going to start with Dan. First question. It's kind of a weird question, but endless possibilities, I feel like. What is the biggest risk reward moment that you can remember in hockey? The example given there is risk reward. Last year, the Oilers brought in Evander Kane. There was a lot of noise. The reward obviously paid off. The risk was worth the reward. Dan, do you have something that comes to mind?
Oh, that's a very oddly specific example. Risk versus reward. I'll say when, oh man, I don't even know.
That's a tough question.
I can go.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Tyler. Yeah, you got one.
Pulling the goalie.
Pulling the goalie is like
Good risk versus
what I would say, just to add to that, because when you pull the goalie with like 4 minutes left, their teams like, I always find that interesting when teams pull the goalie that early. The reward would be obviously the tying the game, but the risk is you have no fucking goalie for 4 minutes.
I think I have an example here. How about when Brian Burke did a whole bunch of maneuvering ahead of the 1999 NHL entry draft so that he could draft both of the Sedins.
There you go.
You had to trade away a bunch of guys. I think they traded Brian McCabe, who was a good young D-man at the time. They traded up to get 2 and 3. Atlanta went with Patrick Steffen, Oilers legend, for that empty net fuck up in 2007.
Mm-hmm.
That's who Atlanta selected. And Vancouver got both the Sedins, but you never know.
And the Sedins are going to the Hall of Fame.
The Sedins are going to the Hall of Fame now, and you never know. Maybe they weren't going to work out in the NHL, but they did. So maybe it was a good risk.
Maybe this isn't a great example, but what I'll go with here is the risk of signing Zach Hyman to a long-term big money contract. There's a risk there, but the reward has been, he's been paying off everything we've wanted him to.
Sure.
Maybe. Does that
I got it.
Go ahead, Dan.
I got mine. My biggest risk reward move was the San Jose Sharks making the transaction for Erik Karlsson. That was like, I feel like that team if I'm remembering it correctly, that Sharks team was still like on the precipice of competing, and they risked it all to bring in a Carlson, and it did not work out for them.
Except now he's red hot.
Yeah,
He's
now
got 10 goals in
again.
15 games this year, but
And now San Jose is shit.
They're terrible,
Perfect
yeah.
time.
And that ended up costing them Tim Stützle
There you go.
yeah.
and Josh Norris.
Hey, here's another risk reward. Speaking of Ottawa's, they went and did the Matt Duchene trade again with Alex DeBrincat, and it looks like the same situation all over again. That was a big risk. It's not working out for them.
Yeah.
Why is he having a bad year? I haven't paid attention at all.
He just isn't scoring as much as he should be.
Does that Patty Kane feeding him, dishing him
He
pucks?
has
You know?
2 goals in 13 games, which is bad given he scored 41 goals last season.
Yeah, not great.
He's not living up to the expectations. And Ottawa's looking like they're going to be finishing low again this year.
Yeah.
So
How about Calgary's situation of selling off Kachuk and Gaudreau and getting Uyghur, Huberdeau, and Kadri out of it?
I got one.
Go ahead, Liam.
What about Jay Woodcroft? The risk of bringing in an inexperienced coach in the NHL and getting to the Western Conference Finals as the award.
How about the risk Jay Woodcroft took himself when he could have just went and kept being an associate with Todd McClellan? And he said, damn it, no, I'm going to be my own man. And he went down to Bakersfield for a few years. Now he's got a job with a cup contender.
There you
The
go.
risk of walking in on his parents in that movie.
Yeah.
The reward, a great
100%.
clip years later.
The risk that he took was following his passion for hockey when the reward of being an actor, he could have been Brad
Could have
Pitt.
had it
He's
all.
very handsome, the most handsome coach in the NHL, as we remember.
Mhm.
that was a good question. That was tough. That made us think. That really made us
That
think.
was a complicated one to start things
I'm
off.
pretty impressed with us.
This one's a little bit easier, maybe. Liam, I'll start with you. Should Ken Holland spend the Evander Kane LTIR space? And if so, how are you spending it?
Oh boy. I'll just say yes, assuming that he can be out for the entire year. And how he should spend it is, I think defenseman. I think you need another defenseman.
Cam?
I say no because I don't like that everyone always uses Tampa as the example. I mentioned this earlier. I think Tampa's was a special team. They were very good, and they were coming into a season where they were re-signing guys and fitting them under their cap. It wasn't, oh, hey, Kucherov busted his hip up in May or in March, and we put him on the LTIR so we could trade for so-and-so. And I think the more realistic situation that you're going to see is this one with Vegas last year when they just wound up playing this never-ending game of musical chairs. Jack Eichel comes off the injured reserve, and then it's Mark Stone has to go on, and then Mark Stone's coming off, so Max Pacioretty has to go on, and then Nolan Patrick's on, and Laurent Brossoit is on. Everyone's on the LTIR, and you're like, well, just wait till we get to the playoffs, and making the playoffs isn't automatic. I think the Oilers, the LTIR space you get is the flexibility to finally operate with a 23 guy roster. You can call up another D-man from the AHL, call up your 2 forwards, so you have a normal amount of players in your team, and you can healthy scratch guys and operate like a normal team for a while. That's the move for me.
Tyler, what are you doing?
Not spending it till you know for sure. You just can't do it yet, and just wait till closer to the deadline, and you'll have a firmer timeline. The last thing you want to be doing is fucking yourself cap wise like Vegas did a year ago by making the trade and just going, I'm sure we'll have other guys in LTIR when Kane's back. So you got to wait.
Dan, what are you doing?
I'm waiting because I don't think Ken Holland is that GM. I just think that the Tampa Bay GM or whoever makes these real good cap moves is not a guy that's been in the league for 20 years still. I just think it's unfair of us to expect that of Ken Holland. He's not that guy. And I think if anything, he just uses any of his money at the deadline in last minute transactions, but I don't think he's planning for it.
For me, I would love if he spent all this LTIR money on a defenseman that helps make the team better now. I'm kind of with Dan in the sense that I don't think there's a trade coming. I just think it's going to be up to the guys in the room. We always look for a trade in November, December if there's struggle, and they never come. So historically, I'm just going to go with history on this one. And I don't think anything's coming.
Also, if we get an early move, remember the last time this happened, it was Alex Petrovich and Brandon Manning.
That is also very fair.
So let's wait till February, March.
That is also very fair.
Did you see there was like Kevin Gravel? Did you see that?
Where? What?
There was some people on Twitter today were talking about Kevin Gravel. I don't even know what team.
It was the Oilers rumor bot.
Is that real? No,
It's just a bot.
Oh,
It's just random names put in.
He got me. You got me good.
Well, then you'll also know,
I wouldn't be shocked though.
You'll also know that the Oilers are looking at Jason Garrison again.
Boom, boom.
Oh, Valentin Zykov.
Liam, I don't know if you saw on Twitter, but Connor McDavid announced he's actually moving to the Islanders.
He was verified.
Shout out to us verified, totally legit verified people on Twitter. Next question, Tyler, I'll start with you. Do you think the Oilers' issues right now are related to roster construction, or are they just getting too much in their own heads and letting other teams dictate the terms of the game?
I'll answer this one real quick. They're just playing like shit. This team is good enough to beat any team in the NHL, but when they decide to not show up and not do little things right, it shows up in the game. Like, you can go back through all of these losses, and it's not like they're playing real good and just losing to a better team. It's like, no, against Carolina, you can count 6 things that went wrong. That game may be a little different because they got blown out, but against Washington, 6-7 things that all went wrong. They lose by a goal, and a bunch of their losses this year have been by 1 goal in games where they play terribly. They're shooting themselves in the foot. It's not roster construction.
Dan?
Yeah, it just comes down to the play. And what was the other option? It was either roster construction or...
They just too much in their own heads.
Yeah, it was just, I guess the answer is then, yeah, they're too much in their own heads, because I just think from the top to bottom, this team needs to be better, and outside of maybe Connor McDavid. And that's it. So, yeah, in their own heads.
Yeah, I sort of wonder if I don't know if this is an internal thing because we're not there, so we don't know. But I feel like generally among the fans, we underrated the loss of the players that they lost last offseason. This is, Mike Smith, Duncan Keith. Those are players that filled pretty significant roles in there. We didn't have the same amount of roster turnover that, say, the Flames had in the offseason, but it was still a lot of change, and there's a lot of banking on young guys to just step up and do something. Like we mentioned earlier, it was Philip Broberg is going to be a 2 left D by now. And maybe you just can't expect that to happen. So that's one challenge. And then I do think there's a little bit of a team kind of buying into its own hype. They're reading their own press clippings where they're a Stanley Cup favorite coming into the season. And you think, we have to play 82 games. It'll be a breeze. And then we'll get into the playoffs. None of this matters. Like, these are tune-up games. I kind of wonder if there's a bit of a sentiment of that in their head, because we didn't see the best from the Oilers last year until they brought Woodcroft on. They were pretty desperate. They needed to win, and they bared down and won. So, I mean, I feel like maybe the slow start here, eventually they'll kind of look and be like, you know what, we actually have to play hard to make the playoffs. It's not a guarantee. And then maybe they'll shift.
Liam?
Maybe a bit of both, I suppose. Like, I feel like holes weren't fully filled when guys were leaving. Like, the Duncan Keith thing is clearly wearing on this team a little bit. And it was young guys were relied upon to get better, and it's early in the season still. And I think, just kind of getting in their own heads, I suppose, and just things aren't going well for them right now. It's just a weird start to the season. I do think the defense needs an upgrade, but overall, I don't think this is a roster issue. I think that the Oilers are not crossing off the T's and dotting the I's on the basics of their game right now. And I think that that's affecting them on the scoreboard. Like Tyler said, Washington, that is a game that the Oilers should win. Half the lineup is out. They got a backup in net. Personally, I felt nervous about it, but that's one that the Oilers should win, and they didn't. And it wasn't because Washington was fantastic. It was because the Oilers kept shooting themselves in the foot. Last question, ask the idiots. Kumsey, I'll start with you. With no trade partners appearing interested in Jesse Puljujärvi or Tyson Barrie, at least at the moment, what is the plan to help our team get back on the back end or at right wing? Do we have to give someone up we don't want to? We can't have all these assets and still lose hockey games. What's the line? No pain, no gain. What are we doing?
That's a challenge. I mean, it's only been a month. Like, you have to give the team some time to gel and figure it out. Like, Puljujärvi, Foegele, Yamamoto, they've had slow starts to the year, but it doesn't mean they're going to go through the entirety of the season and combine for 6 goals. Like, you'd like for everyone to hit the ground running, because, as I said before, they didn't have a tremendous amount of roster turnover. You'd like to hit the ground and just have your team be good the whole season. But the reality for the Oilers is they're a pressed up right against the salary cap team. So any deal they make, if they're going to add, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. They're going to need someone to go out the other way. So I think come February, March, you kind of know what team you have. You have to give it at least 40, 50 games to know where you're at. And then you figure out who's pushing the team in the right direction, who's not. And then if it comes to it and the Oilers need to make a big ad and they're not there financially, they might have to attach a draft pick to a player to get rid of them to open up the salary cap space to make a different move. That's just how it's going to be. But we're not far enough into the season yet to figure out what that move is going to be. Maybe it's the D-man that can pass. Maybe it's a shutdown D-man. Maybe it's a third line center. Maybe it's a winger. Who knows? Maybe it's everything. But I think it's one of those, let's cross that bridge when we get there situations. Give them 40 games to figure out who they are.
Tyler, what's going on?
Yeah, I don't think we should be sitting here doing like the trade Puljujarvi, trade Barry whole song and dance quite yet. We'll save that for closer to the deadline. And even then, like, hate to bring him up again because I want to see him succeed here. But like, you know, you attach Warren Fogle into a deal and a team will take a chance on a young guy like that, a rebuilding team. So I'm not sitting here being like, oh, got to trade up the first and Holloway and Broberg to get Susie now. Like, let's chill. Like Cam said, let's give it to game 40. Then we'll freak out if we need to then.
Dan, what's the plan?
I mean, unless something is dropped in your lap, like a Jacob Chychrun deal that you can't say no to, it would be silly to make a transaction right now. That would be like signing all your free agents in the offseason when you don't have to, right, Calgary? I just think that you'd be making decisions for your roster before you truly know what this roster is made of. You haven't even seen this roster with a Matthias Janmark in it. You haven't seen this team with a bunch of Broberg in it. There's a whole bunch of different options that we still haven't seen where they actually fit into it. Even like Niemelainen is a guy that I wouldn't necessarily say I'm comfortable in his spot or uncomfortable in his spot yet. So I just think you've got time. We've got miles of runway to go here. I know Vegas is way ahead of us in standings, but I don't think anybody thinks that that's going to sustain for the rest of this time. So I don't think it's time to panic just yet. You got to be able to create a championship contending team for a couple of years. You don't make that move by making a move in November.
Liam, what's the plan?
I don't think making a move right now is going to do too much. I don't know. I would just kind of let this team play out. See, we have these guys on this team who haven't really played yet. Like, yeah, Mark's a guy that can probably contribute to the bottom six. Like, we don't really know what Klim Kostin is. Broberg hasn't played on this team yet this season. Even like James Hamlin, Tyler Benson. I know those names aren't going to come in and score 40 goals, but also I think they'll all contribute in a good way. And to be honest, like, Campbell's going to be better. So the results will start coming this team's way and they'll get more on a streak here. And like, we saw them win 5 in a row, right? So they're clearly capable of winning games. Injuries haven't helped them right now, but I don't think Holland's going to do anything too hasty at the moment.
For me, I think the plan is that the players have to work through it every year. If the Oilers have a bad November, December, we're always clamoring for trades. They never come. So this team's going to have to work its way through it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's the reality. And you're probably, some of you may be listening to this and going, fuck you, bag milk. But
yeah.
You know what? You know, I'm right.
There's got to be a Petrovich or Manning deal out there to make, man.
Gravel.
Get Kajula back.
Yeah.
Is he still in the league?
He's in Buffalo.
Buffalo. How about a day? How wild was the Eichel hat trick last night in Buffalo?
So funny.
The wave to the crowd after, that is ice cold shit right there.
Yeah.
Ice cold. I love it.
Although we were talking about this, that deal was a year and 7 days ago. If you gave each GM a do-over, neither of them would take it. I think that was truly a win-win.
Do you remember at the time, everyone was just, what's the GM, Kevin Adams?
Yeah.
Everyone's like, what is he doing? Like, he didn't get anything. It's like, well, you got a top 6 forward, paying Krebs, who's probably going to be a decent NHL. Didn't they get a first-round pick too?
And a second-round pick. And that first-round pick ended up being 16th overall. And now they have a second in a really deep draft. And Vegas got their franchise star that they wanted. So, win-win.
And Jack Eichel got his surgery.
Win-win-win.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up the podcast with hot and cold performers, I want to say that is it next Saturday? No, the 26th.
Yeah.
We are hosting a Brunch for Ben party at Soho on Jasper Ave. Early game, 11 a.m. start. So we are going to be getting after it early. Tyler will be recording Oilers Nation every day on location. Doors will be opening at 10 o'clock.
Family friendly.
Family friendly. Bring the kids on down. We are raising some money for a great cause. Dan, walk us through the cause that we're working with.
Yeah. So we have been bestowed the honor by the Stelters to raise some money in Ben's name, and they're going to let us know where they would like us to send that money to. So as you mentioned, if you head over to nationgear.ca, you can pick up your tickets for $40 each. That the proceeds from those will all go to the charity of the Stelter's choice. And then, as well as you guys mentioned, it is family friendly, so kids under 12 are all there for free. So we'd love to see everybody come out. Tyler will be hosting. We'll have a coloring contest for the kids and tons of prizes for the adults. And as always, we'll have a ton of fun on a brunch party on a Saturday morning.
Nationgear.ca. Go get your tickets. They are moving quickly, so this event is going to sell out. So if you want to come, if you're around, you think a brunch party sounds like a good time to you, head on over to nationgear.ca. Of course, buying a ticket will get you the swag bag, which includes a t-shirt and your entry into a bunch of giveaways. It is going to be a great, great morning. For our friends at Canada Snowboard, it's time for Hot and Cold Performers. Experience a world-class mashup of snowboarding and style right here in Alberta. Going on at Commonwealth Stadium on December 10th, a heightened fan experience will grant you front row seats to watch the best snowboarders on earth. Go head to head in the largest stadium big air contest Canada has ever seen. Tickets are available at Ticketmaster. Tyler and I will be there. I think it's going to be a great time.
Yeah.
Going to be fun to have that event at Commonwealth Stadium. Again, that's December 10th. Tickets available at Ticketmaster. As we do every week, we're going to start off with our veggies, the cold performers of the week. Liam, you're right in front of me. You are first up.
The Oilers defensively.
Boy,
just like in general.
That's it.
Wait, was this hot or cold?
This is cold.
Okay.
Veggies.
Yeah, we start with our veggies. Unless you're
you
a
don't
big
heat your vegetables up?
So actually, veggies are my new go-to drunk snack. You know, like a bag of frozen veggies. If I'm drunk, I get home like 2 a.m.
Hang on. A bag of frozen veggies. You're just going to whip those up, toss them in the microwave or something?
I fry them with a bunch of butter, salt and pepper, and it's delicious.
So they're no longer vegetables. You're just you're eating butter and salt.
Yeah. Exactly. But
They are.
veggies. It's a great drunk snack. Give it a try.
Mine are chicken wings from 7-Eleven.
Yeah, you've talked about
I'm
that.
a big chicken at 7-Eleven guy.
We've had this one before.
Just try a little homemade veggies.
I don't have time when I get home.
That is the last thing I'm going to do when I get home is to be like, you know what? These frozen peas and corn sounds delicious.
I'm going to throw to the side the pizza pops and the chicken nuggets and grab my bag of peas.
Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah. My new cold performer, Tyler's drunk snack.
What I get for opening up.
Coombsy, you're up next. Your Canada Snowboard cold performer of the week.
The cold performer of the week is the weather here. This is my first winter back in 3 years. And I told myself that the winters here aren't that bad. I said the winters out east are worst because it's more wet. It's more windy. And that's a more difficult cold to deal with. And now I'm here and it's like minus 26 with the wind chill. And I'm like, this sucks. It's so fucking cold.
Oh, that's cold.
Layer up.
I mean, it has been a really aggressive start to the winter.
It wasn't this bad 2 weeks ago. It was such an intense shift.
When we got back from Calgary 2 weeks ago, it was 15 degrees.
Yeah.
Just nuts.
We were laughing at Calgary for how much snow they had.
Mm-hmm. Tyler, you're up next. Your Canada Snowboard cold performer of the week.
The NHL announcing today they aren't putting on the World Cup of Hockey in 2024 because they say they just can't get it done.
It's a good excuse.
This league literally got a bubble sorted out in Edmonton in the middle of a pandemic in like 2.5 months. And you're telling me with like 2 years of runway, you couldn't figure out a way to get a World Cup of Hockey done. They're saying they're going to try for 2025 now, which means we will be almost at the 10-year mark of Connor McDavid's professional hockey career, and we will have yet to see him play in a true best on best tournament for Team Canada. It's embarrassing. How the NHL can't get this figured out is beyond me.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Nation Dan, your Canada Snowboard cold performer of the week.
Well, it's just a quick one. It's going to be Elon Musk for what he's doing to Twitter. You get my cold performer of the week.
How dare you? I'm verified now. It is totally legit. It is totally legit, Dan. I'm skipping here. I'm going to go this way.
I'm upset.
There you go.
My cold bills for that $8 bag milk.
I've spent $8 on way dumber shit than that. That's just
Like I'm just curious. Is it from your OnlyFans?
Well, I mean, the feet pics are paying for the Twitter Blue.
What's the worst $8 you ever spent?
the worst $8 I've ever spent. The first thing that comes to my mind is when we took the long bus ride to Winnipeg for the Heritage Classic, and it was like 2 a.m. and I bought a bunch of pizza from 7-Eleven, and it was the most revolting pizza I've ever had in my life. It was so bad that I was making everyone around me try it, and that was at least $8.
You know what you should have done instead is cooked up a nice frozen bag of vegetables with a whole stick of butter.
That's a joke. That's an absolute joke is what it is.
I had the same joke on the tip of my tongue.
Can I go? Like, I just need to ask, like, what are is it like the bag of mixed corn, peas, and carrots?
Yeah.
Not even, it's like lab grown vegetables.
No, or I go with the ones where it's like the baby carrots with the yellow and green string beans.
You're a baby
little
carrot.
corns?
You know what? I don't give in to societal norms. Everyone's having their unhealthy food when they're drunk. I'm getting a layer of veggies in me.
My twig and berries. My Canada Snowboard Cold Performer of the Week is the Edmonton Oilers PK. Right now, as we record this, it is at 70.8%, which ranks them 29th of 32. Just dog shit on the PK. And there was no better evidence of that than against Washington when they gave up 4 of 5. Gross.
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok, and flat out deceived.
The funny thing about that is that penalty kill has improved in the last 2 games, and we are still at 70%.
Yes, just shockingly bad. All right, let's end off the podcast with some positives. Liam, you are first up. You are Canada's Snowboard Hot Performer of the Week.
Hot Performer of the Week, bus driver Robert G., who helped the Crusaders the other week when they were in that snowstorm going down the QE2, got them off the road safely, and everyone was good to go. So thanks, Robert, for getting the boys safe and sound.
It's getting hot in here.
Kumzi, your Canada Snowboard Hot Performer of the Week.
The Nintendo Switch has added Mario Party 1 and 2 from the Nintendo 64's games you can play now. And I've been playing myself some Mario Party 1, and those games are fun.
Feeling hot, hot, hot. Feeling hot, hot, hot.
Tyler, your Canada Snowboard Hot Performer of the Week.
This is a podcast called Oilersnation Radio. We have made it to the 1 hour, 5 minute, and 49 second mark, and no one's brought up the fact Connor McDavid's still at a goal per game pace. Insane.
Who?
Hot Performer of the Week.
Who's that? What is that?
That's Tyler.
That's you?
No.
That's what he says when he eats his veggies at 2 o'clock in the morning.
He's watching them. He's just rubbing his stick of butter on all of the vegetables.
Come on. You know I'm a margarine guy.
Next time you and I share a room that has like some kind of kitchen in it,
Yeah.
we are going to have some of this late night veggies that you are making.
So good, man.
Nation Dan, your Canada Snowboard Hot Performer of the Week.
Well, I'm going to give it. I just got a DM from some Stephen Mallet. I haven't checked to see if I can share all of his information, but he just got a sick Oilers Nation tattoo and he sent it to me. So, Stephen Mallet, you get my Hot Performer of the Week.
He's a hot guy.
Especially with that.
I'll check to see if we can actually share it.
I will go with, you know what? To wrap up my Canada Snowboard Hot Performer of the Week, I'm just going to go Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Right now, we are 15 games into the season. He's got 16 points, 7 goals, and 9 assists. My boy is hot. He's keeping it up, and I love to see it. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, I love you, buddy.
This is why I'm hot. I'm hot because I'm fly. You ain't because you not.
And there you go. Oilers Nation Radio episode 200 and whatever Liam said earlier is in the books. Any final thoughts, boys?
Go Oilers, go.
Score prediction for tomorrow, Liam.
5-4.
For whomst?
4-5-4.
Edmonton.
Edmonton is winning 5-4 to Liam. Coombsy, score prediction against the Panthers.
Whenever they play the Panthers, it's chaos. I feel like the final score is going to be like 9-7.
Tyler.
I'm going to say 4-2 Oilers.
Nation Dan.
6-5 Florida in overtime.
I'm going to go Oilers 4-2 win. No problem. Put it in the books.
We haven't been to overtime this year, have we?
No, we have not. Also, we should acknowledge that we are recording this on Remembrance Day. So take some time and remember and give thanks to all those who fought for our freedoms.
And all those that are currently fighting.
Good point, Dan.
There you go. Oilers Nation Radio in the books. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Shout out Gus, our bus driver from Calgary.
Thanks for listening to Oilers Nation Radio, delivered by DoorDash. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram.